I mean, I was doing this 20 years ago, which is kind of crazy to start thinking about now as we get older. But I think back then, you had to pick up the phone and call somebody and work through a problem, or you had to meet on site and face to face with somebody, work through a problem, which I think is a lot more impactful and more efficient than sending an email to 20 people. And,
Exactly right.
you know, and, you know, as you know, I can't get to all the emails that I
You almost
receive.
have to have a second staff, right?
Yeah.
All three
Or
of
AI or something.
Yeah, or AI just to decipher what's important, what's not important, how it gets categorized. Is there legality reasons, you know, that I should keep this email or should I delete it? Should I keep all of them?
Yeah.
It's a challenge. And then people, you know, sometimes don't get to the point. You don't know what the action items are. It's not summarized. It's like a, you know, problem announcing versus, hey, we need to solve this, or this is important. This is impacting, you know, some version of a critical path. Nobody's making those assertions. So it's like a, you know, vast ocean.
That's a good point. You know, when we have like our pre-construction meetings or just any meeting at all, like kickoff meetings, there should be a section of that meeting that says, here's how we're going to do email. Here's how often we're going to, like, there's some parameters around emails, because your point is exactly right. Like, I could sit around all day and read email and not get anything done and just read it and think, and I'm sure 85% of the time it's just like jabber.
Yeah.
And you know, this wise man told me this, email is a one-way data dump. So I'm dumping data onto you out of courtesy that you can review it at your leisure. That was the intent when it started, I think, when emails really went, you know, mainstream into construction and design, whenever, early 2000s maybe. But then the abuse that it has taken, the emails and, you know, those kinds of media, the conversation is missing, lacking, or non-existent in certain cases. People are just communicating by emails. Yeah, you can blame this on the next generation and all this stuff, but who's training the next generation? We are. So, you know, we're allowing for this to happen, and that becomes the new status quo. And think about it. I can tell you, and on this situation yesterday, on some fire sprinkler issues on a job, and some sprinkler heads that are, you know, flex heads versus regular dry pendant heads, balcony condition, you know, multifamily job. Back and forth, we've been struggling with this issue for a long time, and I think we're missing each other. Like, everybody's missing each other. Like, you know, somebody's saying something, somebody else is saying subcontractor,
47 email later.
And it's a simple discussion. We had 6 of us on a phone call and debated all the things that are happening and came to a clear conclusion. If we do this, if the client is happy with this, then it solves everybody's challenges that everybody's trying to voice. Okay, the subcontractor is worried about X, maybe the cost. Somebody else is worried about the Y, the time. Somebody's worried about quality. Okay, so if we do this, does it solve this, this, and this? Yes. Okay. That was an easy solution. Why did that happen? Because it was not an email. It was more of a communication back and forth between 6 people in a forum that took 30 minutes to resolve. So I think the more we do that versus emails, I think
there is a loose parameter in our office, because I get so irritated with sit and wait. Email, sit and wait. Well, there goes a week. If our staff sees that twice, like if they send an email, because they're not really, like, it's not in them to pick up the phone and call these days. So if they do that twice, you have to set up a meet. Like, you have to go direct, set up a meeting. You have to, like, get a response.
Why do you think that is?
I think they're avoiding conflict. They're avoiding.
I think you're right.
Especially on this side, like, you know, the architect side. Oh man.
No, it's generational also. People do not want to, I mean, they would rather send a nasty email or even a text sometimes versus just confront the person and say, hey man, really, we need to fix this or whatever that is. And I feel like that's what's missing in our industry now.
100%.
Is trying to resolve something by saying, hey, let's look at this. Would this work in, you know, I don't know, whatever your comparisons are. would this work at your house? No, then we need to fix that, right? Let's go fix it. I think having a conversation is the missing ingredient these days.
No, definitely. I think, I think a little bit of it is generational, but people, naturally people don't want conflict. They don't want, the friction. But I think with what we're doing, and it's not specialized to our industry, but definitely with what we do, it's conflict. There's adversity, there's friction. We in our team, we try to embrace that a little bit. We talk about kind of dynamic tension. It's like let's pick up the phone and have a conversation to get something solved. In fact, that's we preach that a bunch. Is like pick up the phone, don't send the email.
Yeah.
If there's something that needs to be documented, we'll send an email. But pick up the phone.
Yeah. Start an email with per our conversation.
Yeah.
Because if you're copying 7 people, don't if it's like a tennis match. Hit the ball. Okay, you sent an email to everybody, and then somebody else responded with like, "See my comments in red," and they're not all they don't bring closure to the issue. Then pick up the phone, person first that generated it, person 1, go pick up the phone, discuss that with the other person, and then say for the rest of them that are watching the tennis match, for their knowledge and edification, just go say, per our conversations, we discussed this, and this was the closure to this topic, and we're done.
Mm-hmm.
How hard is that?
Email.
You did that
stop.
in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Email should stop.
So, Mark, you mentioned kind of tough times, adversity, and so it's funny you brought that up first because my first question revolves around a quote, and the quote is, and you could say struggle, you could say work, but the work works on you more than you work on it, right? So, struggle, adversity, hardships, as you've grown up, as your career's progressed, like how have you thought about that? And are there moments where you got through something really tough that kind of formed your perspective, your worldview, however you want to call it? How has struggle affected your career, your mindset?
I think one of the things that has helped me, and I think I learned it from people, learned it from some of my mentors, their actions. One of the things that has really helped me is compartmentalizing things. So when there's an issue, when there's a huge, catastrophic even, right, issue on a project, if you compartmentalize that and put it in a box and say, that's how I'm going to confine this issue. I'm not going to let it affect the rest of what I'm doing, because there are other issues also. This might be catastrophic as it relates to that condition, maybe that day, but that doesn't mean there are no flames anywhere else or fires. So if you contain it and then keep your senses about it, the management of that box, if you will, that you put around that issue, I think that has helped me tremendously. And one of the key components is time management in all this. The faster you put that out, the better it is.
Yeah,
sure.
Get to it quick.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I'll send you all this Instagram reel that this high school kid, college kid had. It's amazing. He explained time management like I've never seen been explained. He says he calls it the anxiety cost. He says, and he explains it in like assignments in college or whatever, where he says, if you get an assignment on Monday, do it on Monday. Don't even though it's due on Friday. But what he says is, if you wait till Thursday night to do it, which is what we did in architecture school, always, that's what it was. You're paying an anxiety cost on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe even parts of Friday because it's playing tricks on you. It's not letting you do other things. So
and then you're not clearly thinking.
That's right. It's impacting other things. So that's how he described time management. It was just beautiful in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key is when you're down, dealing with stress and or challenges, I've tried to find little wins somewhere to build momentum.
Sure.
To just build yourself up saying, okay, I know this is important. This is burning. But if I put out this smoke, now I got some energy that I put out this smoke. Now, feeling good about myself, put out another, set of issues. Okay, good. Now I go here. So that's been the key for me personally.
Yeah.
To compartmentalize.
How did you develop that? I mean, is that just something that evolved? And you just kind of got into it. And age, yeah,
lack of hair,
yeah.
yeah. So I think it's that, right? It's some of these situations come when you're backed in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them come where you're watching other people deal with adversity.
Mm-hmm.
I have a thing in my office with Michael Jordan, trying to take a shot, whatever, or defending somebody. And it says, adversity does not build character. It reveals it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. Who are you as a human being?
Yeah.
I think those things get revealed when you face adversity, really the inner core of who you are. And so once you know that person, then you try and figure out ways to solve for the issues.
Yeah.
That's been the thing for me. I don't know how y'all.
I would also say a person in your position versus anyone else in your office.
Yeah.
Let's say you're faced with more adversity or more problems or whatever you want to call them, more events that you've got to make a decision.
Yes.
and things can't move systematically until you make that decision.
That's right.
And so we also learn by the seats that we sit in and the higher that we go that we can't noodle that long. We need to be confident. We need to make decisions, and we got to get shit moving.
Yes.
And whether you're right or wrong, right?
You got to make the best decision you can.
You've got to end the moment.
Yep.
And so that's a part of doing it now. If you wait till later, it's just going to keep building.
And part of the rules of engagement, you bring up a very good point. Part of the rules of engagement, at least, the way we've structured in our organization, it's kind of a tiered approach. It only comes to me if they need guidance on solving it because they haven't been able to solve it at a lower level. Yeah. So whatever those triggers are, it comes to me. And then the rule is that whoever brings it has to be able to explain that, because I'm oblivious to it, right? I'm blind. Right. I don't know every single issue, but it might have percolated up. They have the obligation to quickly summarize it with facts, because facts matter when you make a decision.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Basing
Take
it
the
on
drama
facts.
out of it.
Right.
Right.
No emotion.
Right.
He said this or she said this, does not matter. But figure out what the facts are and ask some questions and make decisions. And more often than not, you're right.
Yeah.
Your first gut instinct is right based on facts, right?
Yeah.
So, the key is, did you get the right facts?
Yeah.
When you made a decision.
Our first we have a set of a code or a set of values, and the first one is being real, which means, get to the facts. Like, what is real? No stories, get to the facts. We had a situation the other day where we had a conflict with a subcontractor, and kind of like you said, it percolated up to me. We did about a 30-minute call to say, what is this about? And it was, pretty obvious I needed to call the subcontractor and work it out, which I don't mind doing at all. I said, well, give me all the facts. And at the end of it, I said, okay, are you guys sure there's nothing we're missing? Are you sure there's nothing we're missing? And nope, we're good. I called the subcontractor, and he very calmly walked me through the situation, and we were wrong. And, on the one hand, I was like, hey, listen, I apologize. We're going to make this right immediately. But then I went back to my team. I said, look, don't ever put me in that situation. It's better to say, I don't know, or, hey, this is what we think it is, but, not to be so sure of the facts that, it caused a weird situation. But it's hard. People sometimes can't get out of their stories.
Yes.
And how they want things to be.
It's the biases we have.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody has a bias. And I think when you're so invested in a project or a situation, your biases tend to move towards your beliefs, saying, oh, by God, in that case, by God, the subcontractor is wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
Hold on just a second. Let's get some perspective on this.
Yeah.
Is the subcontractor wrong, or are we wrong?
Yeah.
Probably the same
thing.
And
it turned out one of our team members, I think, was just trying to protect they were worried. They were worried about making a mistake. And so, I mean, it goes back to communication.
Yes.
It goes back to, are we having an authentic conversation and about the facts? And
I think that's the part of the, if you as a society, if we start talking more versus emailing. Yeah, emails, sometimes, an argument can be made that emails are more concise and direct. That's great. But are you truly communicating?
Yeah.
Are you truly communicating what the situation is and the issue is? Like when you called the subcontractor and got the feedback, I'm sure there was back and forth. You asked some more questions.
Sure.
The person answered. You can't do that in an email.
Yeah.
So the mode of communication and the authentic nature of it, like you said, matters.
Yeah.
So
well, it's getting harder nowadays too, especially with the fact that we don't sit around the table, even in our own office. Like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, how many remote employees you have. We're 100% remote, right? So our entire team of 20 something people now are spread out between Dallas and Houston and Austin. And so we do a lot of Zoom calls and Teams calls, but very rarely are we sitting around a table together working through stuff. So that's a challenge nowadays.
I feel like that is one of the things post-COVID, obviously, because we didn't know what Zoom was before COVID, I don't think.
Nope.
We did some version of, what was that? The Citrix system. Go to meetings.
Go to meetings.
Yeah, go to. It was terrible.
Some version of,
And I got shut down quick.
Yeah.
But I think we've gotten used to this, and I think what's missing, the missing ingredient, if you look at how we grew up in the industry, there was mentoring that happened.
Mm-hmm.
You could walk across somebody's cube or office and get feedback. Hey, what do I do here in this condition? Somebody said, hey, let me take the time to show you. This is what you do.
Yeah.
That is missing. You can't do that on Zoom.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So the younger people coming through this industry, it's they've got to adapt and adopt. I don't know what their system's going to be, but it won't be that personal touch.
Sure.
Where I ask questions and you kind of give me some feedback and I learn and, use that as the means of making progress.
During COVID, due to the fact that I just didn't catch it, we're all at home working on Zoom or whatever platform that we had, and we had almost a complete staff overturn. And I had never had that before, but it was not necessarily because we lost work or we were not in production mode, but I lost sight of mentoring. Yeah. And he said, she said started happening, and I thought that you didn't think, and that kind of shit started happening. And I fired a couple people, and then those people left, and it was really weird.
Yeah.
And we're all back in office now, and we collaborate as an office pretty tightly verbally.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you bring that up. When we collaborate with our consultants or builders, we send emails.
Yep.
And so there's like a lost in. I'm trying to like, how do we internally make that better in terms of more consistent and direct communication?
That's a very good point.
Because we write policy all the time about how we do things, why we should do things, how do we draw, how do we put but we don't dictate around emails or well, I mean, we do a little bit around communication, but not necessarily like.
I don't know. I think instilling some of those things, like coming back to, if there's a challenge as a architect or contractor or anybody, inviting, like starting a new movement, so to speak. Hey, let's meet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's do a Zoom call. No, let's meet. Yeah. Because this is an important enough topic. Yeah. Let's meet in person. You want me to come to you? I'll come to you. Yeah. If it's a challenge for you, I'll come to you. Mm-hmm. I think if we make an effort, I think it's going to change, because people see how much difference that interaction makes.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the other person better, because you now understand their context, where they're coming from, and try and help solve the problem. So I think we should start it.
It does come from top down.
Yeah. All the way.
There's I was also thinking about there's probably this misconception about, I would say too, you talked about doing work 15 years ago versus doing work now, and we got more done perhaps back then, or more, we had more resolution. But the way that our world works now, it's faster and cheaper, right? Everything's faster and cheaper. We're moving. And I would tend to believe too that when we send that email, we think we're working faster because that one email and our brains think, oh, I just solved that. I can move on to the next thing. But it's not really solving it.
Yeah, it's going to come back to you.
It's like 25 emails later.
You're kind of just pushing the can on.
Yes,
right.
You are.
So
you are.
That's a really good point to probably surface in our office, at least.
I think closure to an email topic, right? If they focus on closure, think about when you go ask somebody. Let's just say an issue comes up today, and you discuss it with your team members, and the team member is collaborating with an external entity, contractor, consultant, whatever. Okay, done. You discussed it. You know what the strategy is. You left the meeting. They did what they needed to do. So 2 weeks later, you call them and say, hey, can you give me, because it's on your tickler file somewhere, you say, hey, can you give me an update? What, I haven't heard back on this. I'm sure this happens. Oh, I sent him an email.
Oh, it burns my ass. It burns my ass.
I haven't heard back.
Yeah.
What? You know what I sometimes do?
Yeah.
Pick up the phone right now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I do the same. I said, should I
Burns
call
my
him?
ass.
Or her? Should I call? No, I can do that right now.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that reminds me when we are interviewing superintendents, we have a pretty formulated script and screening process, but we always get down to the point of, we call it, is this somebody that can make shit happen, or do they let shit happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can they make it happen, or do they just let it happen?
Yeah.
And to your point about just firing off emails, I mean, a lot of people, they just let things happen, and that kind of translates into just, I'm going to send an email about it, instead of being more proactive and making something happen by picking up the phone and trying to force a decision, or get to a point of like, we can make a decision on this. It's just, well, I'm going to send an email. And to your point, yeah, I sent him an email. Okay, well, and now what? And now what?
Yeah.
Instead of, hey, I called them, we worked through this. This is what we think we can do. That's how we've distilled it down to like across the board. We're looking for people that can just make shit happen.
How do you get those people?
Yeah. Great point.
It's a trait.
Great
It's
question.
a trait. It's we call it grit.
Yeah.
Our organization, we call it grit. Do you have it in you? People call it different things, but do you have it in you to go, and our core values are similar to yours. It's be real.
Yep.
Take charge, and be relentless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So can you do these three things? Can you be real?
Yeah.
Can you take charge? And that's what that is.
Yep.
Grit and determination. And then just can you be relentless until it's done?
Closure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What's that next hard step you can take? It might be, what's the next step you can take to drive an action that might be a little bit hard? Like we preach, like, we have a pretty big part of our business that's doing permitting, for better or worse.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of permitting right now. And we've had to like actually send somebody to these permit offices to like just get FaceTime with a reviewer or somebody, just to move it along a little bit or get it over a hump. But the biggest thing, back to that, I sent the reviewer an email. Well, sometimes you got to jump in the car and go down there. And that's just that next step. So we're looking for people that, or if you're on site doing a job and you're trying to get an inspection, you can't get the inspector out. We want the superintendent to jump in a car, go down to the city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
it's a trait that some people have, that never give up.
Yeah.
Peel layers, those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
Be curious,
Be curious.
right?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking
Yeah.
for, really.
Yeah.
And that's who, the section of people that get shit done. Like
Be
you're
curious until there's resolution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking about, Mark and I've talked a lot about the pitch project that we did together, and we've kind of deconstructed kind of what made that successful, and say, okay, well, this is a structure or a format that we want to look for more.
Yeah.
And, one of the big components of that is the client, right? Sharing the philosophy, sharing the core values of the client, right? And one of the first things you told me when we met is that, you guys won't take on a project with a client that doesn't align with your core values. And you told me about one, I won't mention it, but one project that you guys turned down with a potentially huge client. How do you develop that discipline when there might be a project that is super lucrative, but you get the sense that it's going to be really tough to work with that client?
You bring up this point. So I'll tell you, I'm about to make a call today.
Okay.
You say discipline. This is a $50 million job here in town.
Yeah.
The client came to us a few weeks ago, and I just recognized that now we have the documents. I recognized that it's going to be a challenge because of a certain entity that is involved with it, one of the consultants. And we just don't align on philosophy. And so I cannot honestly put our people through that kind of, pain and suffering, because I know I've gone through this. And for me to assume that this time it's going to be different is absolutely ludicrous. So I am going to call. In fact, I'm going to go meet with them in person and tell them why, and say, hey, next time it changes onto another consultant or something, you do a next deal, I'm more than happy to do it. I would have loved to do this deal, but for these reasons, I'm just not going to be able to help you. That's man, you have to look at, this is years of pain and suffering and checks we've written due to those mistakes we've made on choosing the wrong.
How do you balance it here? Because this is something I still struggle with, right? How do you balance, I'm going to honor my gut or whatever you want to call it, or, the years of like, I know this is going to be tough, so I'm going to avoid that project, and I'm going to try to avoid putting my team through that struggle with just, what, sometimes I got to fucking just buckle up and just do something because it's the best for my company. And it's going to be tough. It's going to feel bad. Not everything's supposed to feel good. Not everything's supposed to be a great conversation, but we probably need to do that because it's financially viable, So how do you?
There's a balance. You got to get facts, right? If it's a case where to your point, the earlier point about the subcontractor issue that you brought up, if it's something that we did not hold our end of the bargain, then there's no reason to blame somebody else. You got to know what the reason is. When you know the traits of the other person, and you know that your team has tried, and maybe other consultants, and in this case, other consultants, and the owner has tried, I know that, and I believe that. And then this one consultant, the prime consultant, has not been, holding their end of the bargain. And that's the reason, that's a prime reason for the pain and suffering that my team's going through. And I've gone through turnover due to that because of, anguish and whatever on the people side. I got to be real.
Gotcha.
Right? That brings the discipline automatically.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things. No amount of work or volume or client, end of the day, I wouldn't, there's enough contractors, they'll find somebody to do this work. It's not like, we're the only ones, or we're on a white horse or anything. But I'm just saying that for us, we feel like we should be disciplined, and we are, more so now than years ago. So we built this rigor of saying no when it really, if it, my wife usually says this, if it smells like shit, if it looks
it probably is. Yeah.
So, so it's one of those. Right?
Maybe I was, because I think we all face trying to do the right thing for our company while still progressing.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. In whatever way you're choosing to progress. But if it's hard, there's no reason to shy away from it, right? But if it's a entity or a thing that you necessarily don't have complete control over, that's a different thing, right? That's going to cause you pain and money that you can't track.
Yeah.
Right. And there's red flags that we always talk about.
Sure.
Not this one. It would be good for us because we've never done that before and we want to get there. But these people are crazy or whatever it is.
Listen, in the last 2 or 3 years, things have been tough for everybody. Yeah. Let's take perspective. Yeah. For our clients, private clients, especially with interest rates the way they are, and how the equity market and the debt market is hammering them. There are delays everywhere. In terms of transformers, in terms of subcontractor manpower, I can go on and on. There's all kinds of stuff that we're all dealing with. So just because an owner calls me and says, hey, I'm disappointed, that's not a reason to say I'm not going to work with that owner. That's not the reason.
Yeah.
When somebody's absolutely unreasonable in every ask that they have, that's when it becomes difficult.
Yeah.
That's the difference between,
Sure.
And there's probably a threshold that we all have.
Yes.
How much do we get beat up before we just like, fuck this?
We're dealing with that right now. We've got a
Yeah.
client that we've worked for about a year or more. And, I dread going into these update calls because there's never.
That's your sign. That is your sign.
Yeah. Well, but
if you dread, think about it. You are not even dealing with the issue, meaning you're not, your team is day to day.
Yeah.
Think about their plight when they're just waking up in the morning, going on to that job. What is their outlook? Are they looking forward to it? Yeah. Because if they're not looking forward to it, believe me, that job is not going to be a good job for you. It won't do well because your people are not committed to it.
Yeah.
So what is the cause of that? Is it one person? Is it the entity? Is it the combination thereof? Is it the team itself? You got to evaluate that.
Sure.
But the fact that you have apprehensions about a call that the person gets, that's usually a sign.
Yeah, it is. But I struggle with like, is that just me?
Yeah.
Do I need to just, because again, the work is good.
Okay.
The team that is executing on it, it's tough, but they don't mind what comes along with it. It's just, and I struggle with it. Is it me, or do I just need to have a little bit more thick skin about it? But I don't know. It's
our job is to take the ass whooping.
Yeah,
take the ass
and that's
whooping,
okay. Yeah. That's okay.
But here's the other thing, which I think is real interesting in terms of leadership, is when we all find ourselves in these predicaments where this is not our favorite job.
Yeah.
Now, if we show that to the rest of our office or our team, that top-down theory is going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to start getting like bummed out about the job, or not wanting to go, or not giving their best effort. So.
Right.
I learned that the hard way too, right? As I was complaining, this is a bullshit job.
You can't do that. Yeah.
But you can't do that. And I had to have a big talk with my office saying, look, I realize I was probably the cause of y'all are seeing me have this attitude, and that's not that. This is our job. We need to see it through. We need to give them our best.
That's great.
Be optimistic. Yeah. And it's hard to do.
It is very hard.
Because you get the ass chewing.
I have, I'll tell you, the people I work with, they're fantastic. Sometimes they tell me, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, why? Oh, you don't look all that happy. That tells me that a conversation I had is having an impact. I'm okay. I've compartmentalized it.
Yeah.
My earlier point. But it's showing. Yeah. And I don't need to do that, because then that impacts them, obviously, right? So them having permission to point that out is something that I've done with people. Just point it out before you just don't say anything and you see this and it's impacting you. So it impacts them more than you think.
Yeah, no, I agree. One question I had for you, because I know the stress levels that our work presents to us as a person. What do you do to balance yourself? What do? You compartmentalize, but you can't shove it all down because you're only so big and so tall.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you balance yourself?
So I try to find I call it me time.
Yeah.
I got to find the me time. So I do a HIIT class every Tuesday and Thursday. Today was one.
Yeah.
I play pickleball.
Oh, look out!
Look out! Saturdays and Sundays as a minimum, 3-hour sessions, and then I try to pick a weekday too sometimes. So 5 days a week, I'm doing something that is absolutely isolated from anything else.
Yeah.
Isolated from family, isolated from work, isolated from any other thing that I'm doing. Just me. I'm focusing either engaging in a pickleball game, or just focused on my own thoughts. So
that's good.
That's I think you need that for your sanity in this business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever, right? Some people like to read. Okay, great. Whatever that is, you should do so that it's you time.
Yeah.
Meditation. Some people meditate. I can't. I can't get my thoughts to zero. This is not that guy.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I've tried, believe me.
Yeah.
It doesn't go there. But I just have to compartmentalize, man. I can't tell you, I say this all the time. When I am done for the day and I go lay in bed, I can tell you I'm fortunate. You can count 10, 9, like a countdown, and I won't hear one.
Yeah.
Because it's done.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate that way my entire life. And I think part of it is this compartmentalizing, because I don't let it bother me too much.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not always that way, but it finally got there. And I'm thankful, really thankful that it worked out that way. Otherwise, man, I'd have so many sleepless nights. I would not.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Well, there's a lot of contractors, and I'm sure architects too that develop other ways of coping.
Yeah.
That aren't as healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good.
Yeah.
Mine is we moved about an hour outside of Austin.
Yeah.
And when I get back to our place and pull through the gate, I've pretty much let everything go.
That's awesome.
It is nice. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that drive is probably real healthy in its own
kind of
sense.
forces.
Whereabouts?
Giddings.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got a ranch out there.
Nice.
And same thing. The drive in is great. Drive home's great.
How often do you?
I'm in Austin, depending on the week. 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
what about you? What do you do?
Lots of exercise.
Yeah.
I enjoy being home.
Yeah.
I enjoy being with my family.
yeah.
I'm a homebody.
Yep.
I could care less about going anywhere.
Yep.
If I'm not scheduled, that's my best day.
That's great.
But yeah, we require a lot of physical activity. Most of it's water related. So we're on the water, we're swimming,
Great.
we're doing whatever. So
That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
I have developed just recently. I was telling Jeremy, my kids make fun of me because we get up early, and I don't know what early is to y'all, but we get up around 5:30.
Yep.
But that's my me time.
Great.
And so after I do whatever workout that I do, I'm walking around with no shirt, no shoes in the yard because I read this thing about grounding.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we do cold plunges. Then I get in the pool and I'm, in the wintertime freezing my ass off in the swimming pool, but it's like this brain trigger that I found is real nice and healing.
That's good.
My wife even said, "Hey, you seem a little different. You're still all right. Well,
Nice.
I hope that's a good thing."
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. There seems to be time periods where things work and then they don't work,
Yeah.
and they just keep changing around. But
yeah, for sure. For sure.
I wanted to ask too. I don't know if maybe everyone knows or they don't know, but you are an architect.
Yes.
And tell me about, because I've never gotten a chance to ask you. I've always known this because we've been in meetings together, but so talk about that evolution of, were you architect first and then builder, and why those triggers happen?
So I grew up in India, went to architecture school there. It was a 5-year degree. When I joined architecture, I think it was always the mindset of a master builder. That was the thought. And that the flavors of that were still prevalent in India when I started in early 90s. I joined, and then the first few semesters, 1, 2, maybe 3, it went down a design path. People using language like vernacular and juxtaposition. I was like, okay.
Watch out.
It's like, what is going on right now? Master builders do these things?
Yeah.
I'm more into execution. So I said, oh, man. And unlike here in the U.S. where you can change your majors easily, you can't. Once you're in, you're in. You got to finish. So I finished my undergrad.
Oh, so you knew before you finished.
I knew.
That was not my
thing. So then,
because of fancy words.
Yeah, too much, man. Too much for me. Finished that, and then said, and I met my wife there. Best thing that happened to me. We both. She's also an architect. She worked for Stantec for 13 years.
I didn't know that.
So we both graduated, got married, and then came to the U.S. in 2000 for our masters. So she did a master's in architecture, and I did my master's in construction management.
Okay.
And then I interned with Cadence McShane.
Yeah.
Back 2001, and then started full time in 2002.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and then, I think it's helped me tremendously. The architecture background has helped me just to visualize and just,
Well, visualize, but also understand both worlds.
Absolutely understand intent. When they use the word intent, and, I get it. I get what somebody's trying to say much more than maybe just a pure construction only background. I get it.
Yeah.
And so, it's helped me with common ground sometimes, finding common ground, because sometimes, all of us have some version of unreasonableness. Try to find a medium, whatever.
What did the master's in construction management, what did you take away from that?
So the single biggest thing was scheduling, time management. And there was this professor, Bill McManus, that went to OU, Oklahoma. This guy, he had this, and there's no software. I mean, software was in the advanced classes later.
Yeah.
The basics, and same thing with architecture. I drew with, T-squared and set squares and stuff like that. So the fundamentals of scheduling on how you make a dependent activity happen and how you start them in parallel and how it impacts the overall critical path. If you start an activity like a start to start dependency with a lag versus finish to start, he showed us clearly examples of, hey, okay, let's build this room. What does it take? Okay, layout, rough in, or framing, rough in, inspection, one side, two side, tape bed texture, whatever, right? All these activities. Okay, what's the crew size that you need to frame this? Okay, what does it take to do the electrical? Okay, takes less than a day. Okay, can you, on the third day of the framing, if you start the rough in here, will you ever catch the framer? No. Okay, so why don't you start it there? Oh yeah, that's great. Why finish to start? You should do start to start plus 2. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So it made us think about critical path differently. I think that's lacking in the industry, to understand the parallel process versus everything's linear. I think that was one of the biggest things I learned. There are other things, construction law, construction management, estimating, all that stuff. But I think scheduling was one of the biggest things I learned.
Nice.
In construction management.
What do you do? I know you're basically running the organization now. Like, what do you still like to get your hands in and like still do?
I love visiting job sites still.
Okay.
It's one of the things I miss. I don't get to do that as much as I love to, because we, obviously as an organization, there are people in charge of certain things and you got to let them do the thing.
Yeah.
But anytime I get an opportunity to walk a job, and I love it. I just love watching things happen. Say, hey, there was a conversation the other day, and I called our general superintendent and said, hey, I just walked this job. I think we probably need about 140 people daily average if we're going to hit these targets. He said, oh, tell me more about it. So I said, okay, here, the north side, masonry, this is done, but you need another 15 masons. I don't know what his pinch point is. Maybe he doesn't have enough scaffold. Maybe we should offer to rent some for him if he has the labor, so that's 15 here. Inside, you got the drywaller. This is what I saw. I saw 8 guys, but you probably need 12 because there's enough framing. Gave him my logic.
Yeah.
And it made sense. That comes naturally to me. I like that. And that's because of things, what I, like I said, the classes I took in scheduling and stuff like that. It's all about production, right? Sometimes. Until you get to punch. Punch is all art. But production work, you have to understand the dependencies. You have to understand how many, like down to, if you're framing this, how many man hours does it take to frame this? How many man hours does it take to rock this, sheetrock this place? So you have to get those metrics down and then base the schedule on that. Not just cowboy it and say, it's about 3 days. Just put 3 days down. So I think that's one of the things that I like doing, going to job sites and looking at details and saying, hey, how are we going to finish that area? Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Open the drawings.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's that we're losing as an organization, and even as a society, as an industry. People are not looking at details.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not there.
Sometimes they're not there and they're not drawn correctly.
Right. And then even when they're there, right or wrong, they're there. People are not looking at it.
Mhm.
They're assuming somebody else is.
Yeah.
Sometimes even on my phone, I open it like when I'm out there. Okay, this should be on an electrical drawing area A.
Yeah.
Hey, this shows this.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing this? Just have to have the curiosity to go peel that additional layer.
Yeah.
And I think as a industry, we're lacking that too.
Yeah.
Well, you could say that the way that you allowed yourself to be educated is the best way possible to get through the industry.
Yeah.
So this is something I think about all the time is our industry is fucked up.
Yep.
Like but we still keep doing it. And you could say that it stems from how we're educated, how we're separated, how we're taught, the contracts that we write, the separation that we are that we're taught to believe in, the communication that we're taught to believe in.
Yes.
The egos that we're built to, hold in a particular way. And I would also say that the design build approach, which you and I have done,
we've done,
successfully. I would say, not without error, but it was a round table. Like, I mean, we're not. Nobody's
perfect.
And you and I have done right in a particular way. So why do we keep setting ourselves up for this traditional way of working?
It's a great point. I think there's a single ingredient, in my opinion, of trust. Trust is earned. I get it. I get all the other factors, but I think the developer / owner or the banker or whatever, the IPD delivery system, right? Integrated project delivery system is a thing. People talk about it. Big projects talk about it, but is it really the case? No.
It's this false system.
Everything you said, ego, all these things come in the
liability.
Liability. Hey, when there's the first issue that comes up, everybody's in that corner.
Sue?
Yeah,
exactly.
Everybody's trying to cover their ass.
I understand that, but it's still like it's such a pain in the ass.
I feel like compromising, and because there's always a compromise. There's always a compromise in something. When there's an issue, somebody ends up writing a check.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Whether you actually write the check or not, does not matter. Whether when I say write the check, it could cost you time, money, or quality. Yeah. Right? One of those three. It's costing you. So if you're in some pretense that an RFI or a job walk with observations or your punch list or a change order or an ASI did not cause those things, you're in some la land because good luck to you. I'd like to be there. With you. But that's the thing, right? People think that, I answered the RFI.
Yeah.
Well, that has implications.
Yeah.
That has consequence. And so we're all trying to navigate, and the more we can be collaborative, use that word, I don't know. I feel like resolution, right? We talked about the grit to resolve. Be real and resolve. Yeah. And be curious until you resolve. Like you said, if we can get to that place, I think there'll be more collaboration in our industry.
But how do you sell that? I mean, it's
you have to lead by example.
Yeah.
And it takes your playing field from here to here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of the traditions of banks and beliefs and these systems that we built up over, I don't know, 100 years, right?
Yeah. Checks and balances are good. I'm not saying checks and balances shouldn't be there. There's a reason why you have QA, QC. There's a reason why you have testing labs. There's a reason why you have inspections. There's a reason you have punch.
You don't skip those steps.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting any of that. I'm just suggesting rules of engagement should be more collaborative.
Yeah. Well, some of the features that you find, like liquidated damages, can you still have, because this is something we've talked about too, is like, can you still have a true, open, honest collaboration with all parties if you're potentially staring down?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Without indulging too much into the details, I've got one that the owner's levying some damages onto us. rightfully so. There's smoke everywhere on the architect side, some on the owner side, some on our side.
Yeah.
But I'm having great conversations with him,
Mm-hmm.
fully knowing that I'm going to know this weekend. I know where he's headed, but I'm going to know this weekend by Friday as to what the final, settlement offer is.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some very hard conversations about what's not reasonable and what's reasonable.
Yeah.
I'm still having great conversations with him. It is all in your attitude on how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I say this a lot. You control when there's a conversation or a communication or whatever, collaboration. There's a 50% on your part and 50% on the other party's part. I like to think that I control my 50% and how I behave. I control my portion of it, which is 100% of the 50%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the trick or the magic is in how much, due to my behavior, can I control your portion of the 50%?
Mm-hmm.
Not control, influence.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So that is how you have that.
Mm-hmm.
Be real, be honest, authentic.
Yeah.
All the words you've used today, right?
Yeah.
If you're that, then it's not that difficult.
It just seems like the dynamic changes a little bit. Every decision or thing or change or event that comes up, it's like, well, the natural tendency is to go back to CYA. Well, we better document all this, right? Which again, that's part of the. That's
you
part
have to
of
do that.
You do it anyway, but it's like, does it change it enough? You know what I mean? Because a slight change in degree of direction at the end can make a huge, right? And so it's like, well, if I know that we've got this potential penalty, and this is something, maybe we need to rethink it a little bit. I like what you're saying about, you still have influence and you still have ownership of it, and you can still be really collaborative. I just see where we've in the past, have the mindset has shifted a little bit. It's like, well, we better, knowing that we've got this multi-$1,000 a day penalty, and we better make sure and document everything. We better make sure,
The documentation is not, that's good. I'll give you one example. This is not in LD state, but there's a client of ours that has had some challenges with jurisdictional shifts, changes, and is struggling we're finished with the phase, but cannot occupy because of jurisdictional issues.
Yeah.
And they're struggling with it. But that client so they had to write me a notice regardless for certain things. And the client had the courtesy to call me and say, hey, I just want to tell you my equity and the bank have asked that I do this. We understand. We understand that, you're doing everything in your power and it's really not your issue. So, okay, that's fine. And it had some pointed language. She gave me the heads up. I responded. I said, hey, we will respond and you may not like the response. Yeah. It might be pointed. Yeah. But that's business, just like you're telling me. And we did. 2 or 3 days later, sent the response back with facts. And we had a conversation about it because the client said, we don't want to go back and forth on this. And rightfully so. I said, let me just say this to you. I'll tell you the consequence of this action. Yeah, while you didn't want to do it, but you got forced to do it. I get it. I respect it. I get it. I'll tell you, there are 8 people on my team on the job every day. They go in every day. In fact, they're working 6+ days a week. On the 7th day too, some Sundays. And they've been doing that to get you in. And for them to see this letter and then have to provide facts to respond, that takes the spirit, the human spirit out of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what it did. So you may see the consequence of that at OACs. You may see them be a little,
Yeah. No, that's true.
And that's a consequence. I'm being real with you.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, that's
something
exactly what I'm talking about, right? So then I guess
I had that conversation.
Yeah.
After I wrote the letter.
Yeah.
And it was a great conversation. And the client asked, hey, how can we help? And I said, just be easy on them a little bit as you talk. Yeah. Just don't poke too much because, it's it's not like you lost the trust or anything like that. I'm not suggesting any of this, but you just have to just be mindful that you've now not poked the bear, but you've kind of
You took the wind out of them.
Yeah.
Yes, after all those efforts.
Yeah.
And maybe
They're spending
goes,
that time away from their family, getting it
That's
done.
a good point. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
and maybe that goes back to your point about compartmentalization.
Yeah.
Is that, okay, we've got this business issue that's wrapped up in potential liquidated damages or whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to handle that, but I'm going to sit that over here.
Yeah.
And we're still going to honor you as the client and be
That's right.
collaborative, right?
That's right.
So kind of a both and.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is there a portion of that whenever liquidated damages are engaged, is there a portion of what you do that's more scrutinized versus the other?
What we do-
meaning because I guess my point is you either have to scrutinize your time
Yes.
to make sure that you have enough time to do what you need to do, and then buffer that time potentially,
Right.
or it's cost, or it's contract, or it's team.
Right.
Is there something that you do differently in order to
On
fulfill
projects
those?
as a whole, like a
Well,
general.
just liquidated damages versus not liquidated damages.
So when the words liquidated damages are used in a setting, in a situation, let's just say the projects you're talking about or the projects I talked about, if it's leaning towards that, I think everybody goes on high alert. That's I mean, it's human to do that.
Yeah.
Everybody checks their documentation and sees, hey, well, did I document this well? You'll see a little increase in people's CYAs.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just what it is, the heightened alert, whatever. But I think what you said it earlier, and that's the key ingredient. Compartmentalize it here. That's great. If you're going to increase your level of CYAs, fine. Just do it here. You still have a job to do.
Yeah.
Let's focus on that.
Yeah.
That's very hard to do. It's easy for me to articulate this.
Sure.
That's how I operate, but that doesn't mean everybody operates like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the client operates like that and reciprocates like that. So that's why the triggers we have, now they're more rigorous than ever before. The go no goes, we call them go no goes at an early stage. We screen, so to speak, or do our due diligence on a new client, especially, and then even on an existing client, figure out, hey, how did it go? Let's get some data on whether it was us, if there's pain points. Was it us that caused it, or was it a different situation? Was it the client? And if so, is it a certain person? Okay, is that person still with them? We do a little more research than
Who's involved? So the go no go is like, you look at a potential project coming up, and then you bring the team together to discuss, do we want to take that on or not? Or
yes.
well, how does that look?
It's a group of people. There's pre-construction. That portion of the team is involved. Operations is involved. We have a risk set of people that manage risk, safety and risk. They're involved. If it's a repeat client, especially. There's legal involved because sometimes it's a contract.
Yep.
Clauses are not favorable. So what are we going to do? Is it favorable, not favorable? Forget favorable. Reasonable. Are they reasonable, not reasonable? Are they market or not, right? Because they have a say in it on what's happened. And then we all have a say and we all discuss it and say, okay, it's a go. I'll tell you, the scrutiny on a go is much higher than a no-go. No-go is quick and easy. If you do no-goes, like, okay, we don't even have to have a meeting about a no-go. We looked at it, client sent the contract, or we got the documents. I don't know, there's too much risk in it.
So you've had a project, and I know I can only imagine the size of your projects, what that initial investment is to bid it out and everything. So have you gone all the way to contract and then said, hey, we can't do it because of the contract?
One time.
Okay.
One time it's happened. It was for a project up in North Texas.
Mm-hmm.
It was $100 million project.
Okay.
There was a set of 3 clauses in the contract. Just three. That were take down the company type of clauses. And we won't bet the company on any client, any project. That's not for us. We're not doing that. So here's the thing for you as an architect, which you're in certain cases, you're helping the client early on with the client contract possibly. Nobody should be betting their company.
Yeah. Well, give me an example of a clause that
consequential damages. I cannot have consequential damages.
Yeah.
You got to mutually waive consequential damages.
Gotcha.
I cannot write the company, I can't close the doors just on one project.
Yeah.
That's a risk you have to take, Mr. Client or Miss Client, to hire us, and same vice versa. If you, that's not, nobody should do that, right? That's not insurable. I can't get insurance for it.
Yeah.
If I buy anything that is risk oriented, that is insurable, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
If the insurance companies cannot provide me insurance for a risk, then me signing it, you may check a box and feel good about it that I signed it, but it's not worth anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if it's not insurable, should not have it. So that's it'll take down the company for risk, and we won't do that. Yeah. So we had to give the contract back. Literally give it back.
They wouldn't take it off the...
They wouldn't take it out. There was an attorney. I won't go into names. They're very well known in the industry, and since then, anytime we see, we know when you look at I look at your set of drawings, I know it's Odom, right? So similarly, contracts, who the attorney is.
Yeah.
When we see that, that's a quick no-go. Yeah. Not even interested in going through it.
Yeah.
So, we've even talked to clients about, see what it's going to do. Mm-hmm. Even the people that'll sign that contract will bake something into the price. So you're paying a premium for something that is not even, it's not.
I don't know that I've seen that in a contract yet.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. So anyways, that's the kind of stuff we go through. Mm-hmm. A lot of rigor. And it it didn't happen overnight. It comes with a lot of, lessons learned that we've had in the past, and then you evolve as you go. So now we have a 2-step process. So one is to move it to a certain stage, like, hey, we're gonna move this forward and maybe share some cost information and do some budgeting at a schematic level. What's the end game here? Is this going to be a client we want to do work with? Or let's just say Mark brought somebody in. Of course, love to work with Mark. I don't know the client. Okay, let's okay. Before we go, say we'll do the initials part, but let's go meet them. And that's why I say, hey, Mark, why don't you set up a meeting? Why don't we go see what this person's like, what the decision maker's like? So we do a lot of that, and then okay, now we can go move it to the next stage of actually bidding on it or whatever the thing is, right? The next steps are. So we do the second, and that second, we ask some very, very intense questions. Hey, do you have a contract that we can look at? Those kinds of things before we go forward. Yeah. So it's just the rigor, man. It's just, we just don't want to go down a path that, we don't achieve what we need to achieve for the client and for us. Time. Yeah, it's a waste of time. Let somebody else do it that's interested to do it,
Do you guys always have that discipline?
Yes. Now we do.
Yeah.
Didn't before.
Yeah.
Now we do.
Yeah.
What's the next step for your company?
I think for us, if you're not growing, you're dying. Is that what Zuckerberg said? So I think growth is always the thing. For us, it's diversity in product type than ever before. Because we've learned something here. Office is a bad word. Who knew?
Multifamily struggling.
It's about to be a bad word. So if you're not improvising, if you're not diverse, we do a lot of industrial, retail, hospitality, schools. We're doing about $90 million worth of work with AISD right now. Office, which, multifamily, senior living. We do all of these products just because we want to stay diverse.
Yeah.
If you're a true builder, you should be able to do that.
Yeah.
And not many people, I don't know many or any actually that do stick and commercial. We are one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know many.
That's very unique. Yeah.
That is very unique.
Yeah, people tend to find themselves in a niche. I mean, we've always done that. It's always been like a restaurant.
Yeah.
And another nugget you gave me the other day when we met was, if you're a builder and you've got that structure, then you should be able to apply that to any product.
That's what I believe in architecture. We do all types, and there's a couple of things that we focus on, but it's not a specific type of building.
End all, be all.
That's a little boring anyway.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do you guys? What's exciting you this year? Like that might be coming up. If you can talk about it.
Yeah.
Rate change.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. I think Austin has to go through. I don't know, the pain and suffering of the lack of infrastructure concerns me, but I think the growth that is happening. If you've gone up the 183 corridor.
Yeah.
Amazing growth.
Yeah.
Same thing, Tesla and all those sites, but more so the north. It is crazy how that is growing. And so if they can bring some, like what Dallas Fort Worth did, if they can bring some city centers, so to speak, like office and whatever, to where people from Cedar Park don't have to commute to downtown Austin for work, right? If you can do that and alleviate some of the stress on the transportation and everything else. So we are working on a fairly large project in Cedar Park at this moment.
You're on it, or you're trying to
we're
get
working on getting it.
Gotcha.
That's super exciting. There's a lot of growth there. If you check them out. We've got a few projects that are pencils down at this moment. Exciting projects, but they're not, again, for obvious reasons with interest rates, they're pencils down. We've got, we're excited about like I said, Austin ASD work. Just variety of things. One of the things that, we didn't touch on today, but, this VDC thing is I think it's something that'll really take us into the next level of what it is that we do, right, in our industry. It's virtual design and construction. So it's a visualization tool basically. So if you have to design this, it's all designed on a computer. Think about BIM on steroids.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So essentially you're visualizing it, you're solving it, you're actually building it, you're putting workflows in it, everything, schedule, BIM, all this is done virtually first. And then now you have an opportunity to even prefab this thing.
Yeah.
In segments, right? Because it's perfect. There's no need to RFI anything because it all fits.
Is that technology you're investing in, or is
No. I'm excited about it. As you said, what is exciting?
Yeah.
I think in the next 5 years you'll see a lot of, because what BIM and even Revit with Autodesk didn't do, I think this is going to do, because there's so much open, like AI assisted things that are happening.
Yeah, I was watching a video of this guy. I think it was the new Apple glasses, and they had it plugged in with some software that they could filter through layers of plans and see it real time inside of space.
Yeah,
and they could see if there's conflict, MEP, conflict. I mean, it was pretty amazing.
Well, it's a real interesting. It's an interesting thought, because you could also say that we have the technology right now to do that on a certain level, but we don't do it because we're still stuck in this.
Yeah.
Hey, print me a set of plans, will you? Why the fuck do we need a set of plans when we've got this virtual thing that we could put on these goggles and really understand it a lot more? Like, we have that capability right now.
Yeah, sometimes it is. Yeah. We did that at Torchy's with design. We started using
that BIM,
VR, the Oculus stuff, and you could walk through. Yeah, we did it on some of your projects too, and it's definitely a different experience when you can kind of get a sense of the volumes.
Absolutely, yeah.
But that's also visual. So we're all visual by nature, right? That's what we want to see it, and then we feel it. So I think taking it one level further, because there's the downfall, so to speak, of Revit or even BIM, Navisworks, is that there was noise. There's too much noise. People use it for clash detection, but that's, you put a model in, it's like millions.
Everything's clashing.
It doesn't have to be that absolute, right?
No, it's,
So you know what I'm saying. So I think AI helping with these things, because AI, think about it this way. If there's an AI platform that takes a model, let's just say yours and your MEP consultants and your structural, puts it together and just says, you know what, I'm smart enough, I'm going to move this column. You don't have to do anything. It'll do the 1,000 clashes alleviated by moving it. And says, okay, there are these 6 that need human interaction, and you need to decide where you want. That's where it's going.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the
Maybe that's the
16,000
next steps in how we all
Yes.
operate collectively.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, AI is interesting. You know, a couple of different things I'm thinking about. Number one, I don't know if I told you about this, Mark, but we found an AI software that helps you get contact information. So from a business development standpoint, it scrubs the internet, LinkedIn, all these different, and you can get contact information on people a lot easier than you could. So I thought that was really interesting. But, you know, the other side of it, I feel pretty good that, you know, until they've got robots that are going to construct every aspect of a project, you're still going to need the phone call. You're still going to need the site meetings. AI is not going to step in and have these tough conversations for you.
Yeah,
that's where we still are going to be valuable.
A young professional in our office wants to go down this VDC route, and I said the exact same thing. I said VDC can get you to a place where a model is like there. Yeah. Maybe it's perfect. Yeah. Maybe it's buildable, perfect, right? That great. But you still need somebody to install it.
Yeah.
Until we go into the, you know, what the automobile industry did and, you know, robots built cars. Yeah. Until you go to that stage where robots will build buildings, which will happen, maybe not. Sure. I told him it's not in my lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to worry about it. You do. Your lifetime. That until that happens, you still need the human interaction and how you're going to motivate people to put that stuff together. It's great that the model's great.
Sure.
Still need somebody to you know, install that duct, hang that rock, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, good. Well,
pretty good, man.
Yeah, that was.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
we already
got an hour
pretty fast.
Yeah. This was good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for the invite. I enjoyed the conversation.
It's always
this is great. Yeah, always.